All right, welcome to class 2 of Excel data course or Excel core. My name is Don and pants are still optional. All right, with this class, what we'll want to do is we're playing around with data. So we'll definitely want to download some of the data that I gave you so that you could follow along in during this class. So what I'm going to do is I'll pop on over to this guy, and now if I go here to data core, let's see, yep, it'll say handout. The handout that I'll be going through, and then the data that we'll be going through. And when you open it up, you should be able to get this information, stuff about Scratch, names, order details, etc. And this is going to help us through the this class, so we don't have to type in as much. All right, so the first one, I'm on Scratch right now, and I'm going to create some data. So in the first class, I showed you about how to do autofills. So you can do an autofill 1, 2, 3, 4. You could do an autofill on months, January, February, March, and days. But you could also do your own autofill stuff. In this case, I'm going to go to File, which will take us to the backstage. And then underneath Options, this shows us all the fun options on how we could work with Excel, meaning how things are actually going to be shown to us. And in fact, you could create a program that doesn't look like Excel, but still is Excel, and then have anybody who has Excel to work on it. So there's different interface options, etc. In this case, what I'm going to do is go here to Advanced, and I believe if we go all the way down here, there we go. Under General, we could see Create Lists for Use in Fill Sequences. So I want to edit a custom list. So I have my lists over here, January, February, March, etc. But I want to create a new one. So I can now add list entries to it. So I'm going to enter in, I don't know, let's say Star Wars things. So I'm going to say A New Hope. The Empire Strikes Back, let's see, and Return of the Jedi. All right, I can now add that custom list in, and when I click OK, now, OK again, I'll type in A New Hope. But if I click on this and then drag down, there you go, Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. So I could put in all of the movies, etc. But what I'm basically saying is that you don't have to be stuck with the information that they give you, the lists that they give you. You can actually put in whatever lists you want, whether that is the colors for a electronics kit, resistor, or the people in your company, etc. You could have a list, and as you drag it down, then it continues on with that list. All right, beautiful. And now instead of saying, you know, a cup of coffee, what I'm going to do is say coffee break. Although the coffee break only lasts for about 10 seconds. All right, we'll continue on, and we'll go here to names. Again, this is all about data. This class is about data. And when we get data, we don't necessarily get it formatted the way that we would like to. Sometimes it's lumped together by the programmer who's given it to us, and we need to break it apart. We need to make changes to it. So what I'm doing here is I have names of people, Abe, Ben, Carl, and Dave, and I'd like to break those apart. Later on, I'm going to show you formulas and functions that will do that. But in this case, what I want to do is I just want to break it apart pretty quickly. So I'm going to click and hit Abe. Now what I'd like to do is close all that. I'd like to copy that down so it says Benjamin, Carl, etc. So click on Abe, and then under Home, Fill, I want to do a flash fill. And when I do, boom, it was smart enough to look over to my left-hand side and say, well, Abe is the first part of that name, and it stops right before the space. So Abe, Benjamin, Carl, and David. So the same with last name. I could say Lincoln here and click on this, fill, flash fill, and then there's Franklin, Sagan, and Duckworth. Now, I'm also trying to tell you about the questions that may come up at the end of this class during those quizzes, and this is the first one. This is the first set of them, I should say. Abe, Benjamin, Carl, and David will be your keywords, or will be the words that are given to you. And then you'll have to give the last name of Lincoln, Franklin, Sagan, and Duckworth. All right? So on the prompt of Abe, you'll give Lincoln, etc. All right. Any questions? Coffee break. Then sort this list in descending order, you're going to break the relationship between order ID, product ID, and unit price, etc. But Excel is smarter than that. If this will go ahead and it will sort them as a unit as long as there are no spaces or blank rows or columns in here. And because this is all together, I can now sort largest to smallest, and boom, I can see that, yep, it's now sorted them. The unit price is now the largest going down to the smallest, and now the order ID is out of order along with the product ID. So it did move this as a unit. So each row has been moved as a record, and it didn't break the relationship. Perfect. I can come over here to extended price, and instead of saying from largest to smallest, I'm going to sort and filter smallest to largest, and boom, there it comes back again, quicker than we could say boom. Now order ID, product ID is different, and the extended price is the smallest one going up. Now, what I'd like to do now is I'd like to do it by order ID, and I'd like to do the smallest to largest, kind of where we started off with. But when there's a tie in there, I'd like to go to the product ID and sort that one from smallest to largest also. Now, if I sort it in one and then sort it in the other, I know that this is going to get messed up. So that's where I can come up here to sort and filter and click on custom sort with those three dots, which we now know are called an ellipsis. So when I click on this, it says, what would you like to sort by first? It saw that everything was sorted by extended ID or extended price. So it says, did you want the extended price? Nope. Click on the drop down. I want to sort by order ID. Now, it's going to sort everything, but again, I wanted it to make sure that when there's a tie in the order ID, it's going to then sort by product ID. So I'm going to add a level and then sort by product ID. Smallest to largest on both. Click OK, and there we are. So 3 to 18, 80, 36 to 41. Here's 83, 3, 14, 26, 45. All right. Now, one more thing I want you to show you. I'm going to come back here, sort and filter, and then do a custom sort. Notice that there's this little checkbox here that says My Data Has Headers. This is to make sure that this doesn't get sorted along with it, order ID, product ID, etc. So if yours just says column A, column B, column C, that's because it didn't know that there was data headers in there. So if you have data headers, it'll show up right here if you check that box. All right, beautiful. Coffee break. All right, so this takes all of our orders and we see all of them in a certain order. going from smallest to largest. But sometimes I just want to see things that match a certain criteria. Whoops, I'm going to come back to this one. So I want to see all of the orders that were, say, for extended prices of greater than $50. So I can say sort and filter, and instead of sort, I'm going to come here to the funnel, which Microsoft says is a filter. When I click on the filter, what it does is it brings drop downs on all of my header rows. And on extended price, if I click on the drop down there, this shows me all of the unique values that are there. 225, 295, etc. Now, all right, I could do it that way. Or if I come here to number filters, it then gives me some additional pieces on how I can make changes to it, such as less than, greater than, or between. So I'm going to say anything greater than or equal to $50. Click OK. There we are. 58, 62, etc. With this, we could even get better. We could say stuff like, hey, I want to do everything between 50 and 100. So right there is between 50, greater than 50, and less than 100. So now when I look at it, you don't notice that there was too much of a change, but there is everything here. Now, when we start playing with data, we want to make sure that we use the stuff that Excel gives us. Because if we start making changes, if we start putting stuff in there, our own formulas, we could get drastically wrong answers. So for example, if I went down here, I'm going to just not sort to clear the filter in this case. And to do that quickly for all filters, I'm going to say for sort and filter, clear filters. I'm going to come down here to the very end, and I'm going to say, hey, sum up all of that information above me. So auto sum, and I'm going to auto sum everything there, and I get $5,545. I'll even move that down a little bit. Now, if I come up here and I say, yep, I'm only looking for things within $20. So I'm going to say between $20 and $40. Click OK. I get a new set of information. But when I come down here, I still get $5,545. Well, that's kind of weird because I know that that's going to be less. But the reason that this occurred is because the data that doesn't match my criteria isn't thrown away, but it's just hidden. And I can tell that because Excel has forgotten how to count. If I look to the left-hand side, I see that it says 1, 6, 13, 14. So it doesn't know how to count. But what it's doing is it's hiding all of the rows that don't match my criteria. But my formula down below says, hey, pick up everything here from F2 to F214, even if it is not visible. So that's why we were getting bad answers. So rule number one, if you're playing around with data, always use the information, or always use the tools that are given to you by Excel. All right, beautiful. So I'm going to clear this extended price right now. And what happens if I'm looking for extended prices that are, say, greater than $20 and a unit price that is less than $20? So I could do those both at the same time using this. I could say an extended price of anything, I'm going to just say greater than $20. And then I'm going to say it has a unit price of less than $20. All right, so this is an and kind of condition. Show me all of the orders where the unit price was less than $20 and the extended price was greater than $20. Basically saying anything that has a quantity greater than 2 kind of thing. All right, so that's an and we can do that in a filter, and it's pretty nice. All right, so we have our data, and that's it. This is where I would say, is there any questions? But instead, coffee break. All right, now I'm going to clear the filter. Sort and filter, clear the filter. Now, what happens if we were looking for an OR condition? Meaning, I want to find anything that has an extended price of greater than $10, or it has a quantity of greater than 2. Meaning you could have a quantity greater than 2 and a extended price of, say, $60, or you could have an extended price of less than 2, but have a quantity of 1 or something like that. We couldn't do that before because both of those had to be an AND. In this case, it's an OR, which is going to be an advanced filter. So I'm going to come over here to Data, and then in here there's the filter, same as on the Home tab, but we can also have Advanced. Click on Advanced, and this is already kind of set up because, well, I had done it before, but it says first off, what is the list range? I clicked from A6 and then drug it all the way down to F29. What's important in this case is that these names, order ID, product ID, and unit price, etc., are exactly the same as the top ones up here, which we're going to use to filter it out. Order ID, product ID, unit price. For my suggestion to you is that you do not just type those in. You take this, copy it, and paste it up above so that they are definitely identical. Anyways, list range from A6 to F219, and then the criteria range. Again, it starts off at A1 because that's where our headers are, and it goes down to F3, which is in the same row as my last question, my last condition, which is greater than 2. All right. When I click OK, boom, there it is. So I can look down here and it says, hey, I'm looking for an extended price of less than 10. Well, that's $44. No, because I now have a quantity of greater than 3. Hey, this quantity is 1. That's not greater than 2, but the extended price is less than 10. So it has to meet this criteria or this criteria. You could put in additional ones, and those would be ands. So if I would say I wanted to have a quantity of greater than 2 and an extended price of less than 10, or anything that has a quantity greater than 2, you could do that too. So, and you would just have to rerun that filter. So, and across there, ors on different rows. Beautiful. All right, now on to subtotals. I'll do trees in this case. Now, I could go through, right now I can see that there's a problem, and I can see that there is a # railroad track octothorpe there for Scotch pine quantities. So, and if I hover over the top of it, I see a tooltip that says, yep, you have 1.5 million trees. Nope, definitely wrong. So that should be just 15,000. So I'm going to type in 15,000 and enter. Now, I see that I have April, May, September, and I see all of the types of trees, and then the quantities that I have here. All right, now the boss comes up and says, hey, that's really cool. What I want to do is I want to get a sum for each one of these months. So I could filter them out, sum them up, and put them on a different sheet, or I could use a data command called subtotal. So under data, on the far right-hand side, is one that says subtotal. Click on that. It looks at my data and it says at the change in each what. In this case, it's at the change in each month because it saw that that was in alphabetical order. So that's actually the one that I want. Use the sum function, and I'd like to sum up. And it gave me bundles, which would work, but I also want quantity because that was what the boss had asked for. So when I click OK, it says, yep, there we go. Here's all of our details, and then there is the April totals, 125,000 trees and 237 bundles. There's the May trees, September, and grand total. Now look what happened. Because we put in our own functions at the bottom, my totals are now 3 times larger than they should be. This is because, as it does the totals, it does each one of the details once, then it does the subtotal again, so that's twice, and then it did the grand total down here, 3. So that's why it's 3 times larger than what it actually should be. So Again, don't trust our functions that we put in. Try to trust in what Excel has given you. All right, so I can give this to the boss. Now, the unfortunate part is the boss would probably be angry only because, in this case, I'm giving all the details, and that's terrible. So I just want the totals, the subtotals in this case. So to the left-hand side, I see that there's a minus sign. When I click on that, that's going to roll up all the details and only give me the subtotal for that month. So I could do that to May also. Now, with 3, it's pretty easy. I could click on it. But it's very possible that you'll have 2 years worth of data in there. And if you do, that you don't want to have to click on each one. So I'm going to click on the 2, which is in the column that I want to roll up. And when I do, everything rolls up. Click on the 3, that's going to show me all the details. Or click on the 1, and that's going to just show me the grand total. Beautiful. Now I'll click back here to 3. All right, now we have to remove our subtotals before we go on, because I just want the data alone. Again, under data, there is subtotal, and when you click on that, there's a button to the lower left-hand side that says remove all. Click on that, and boom, everything's removed. So I'm going to take a coffee break while I make sure that you guys get to that point. All right, so we have just our data here. Now, the boss says, hey, that was really cool. You gave me all of the subtotals by month. That's awesome. But really what I want is I want to know what the subtotals are by month, by county. So, okay, boss. Well, what I'd like to do then is maybe I could filter it out by, change the April and put all the St. Louis togethers and then do a subtotal. Or I could do it using a pivot table. Now, before I show you how to do a pivot table, I need to give you 2 vocabulary words. The first one is an independent variable. And an independent variable just is. Because the Earth is in a certain place around, in its orbit around the sun, we call it April, we call it May, we call it September. One thing about independent variables is that there's usually very little variability within a list. So in this case, I only see 3 unique variables here under month, so that would be an independent variable. Same way with county. It is just because somebody placed a line on a map somewhere. We call it St. Louis County or Itasca County. In this case, again, we only have 6 unique variables. And same way with the types of trees. So independent variables. A dependent variable is dependent upon the independent variables. And it usually has high variability. So for example, because it was April, St. Louis County, and White Pine, we purchased 37,000 trees in 24 bundles. Whereas if we change one of those items, such as type, we get a wildly different answer. So April, St. Louis, blue spruce, we get 15,000 trees. So in here, the dependent variables are dependent upon the independent variables, and those have high variability. So in the quantities, we only have like 2 or 3 duplicates, same way within bundles. All right, so I'm going to click on this. Those are our 2 vocabulary words, and I want to insert a pivot table. Insert pivot table. Since I was within my data, it went ahead and found the edges to all of the data. And I'm going to say, there is my table range, and I want to put it in on a new worksheet. Click OK. It gave me a new worksheet. Awesome. I got to move me right like that. All right, so here's my pivot table. Now what I'd like to do is I'd like to have the pivot table show me the month on top and then the county over there, because that's kind of what the boss had asked for. So I'm going to click on month, and just like playing solitaire, I'm going to click, hold, and drag that to column. Click, hold, and drag that to column. In this case, it gave me 2 month and months. So in this case, I'm just going to take month and drag it up there, and now I get April, May, and September. All right, so the county. Click on the county, come down here to rows, and when I let go, Cook, Itasca, Lake, and St. Louis. Pretty good. So the independent variables go on the header or on the row headers. And now the dependent variables are usually what we're summing up. So I'm going to find out what their totals are in these values. So I'm going to do it by quantity. Click on quantity, drag it down here, and faster than we can say poof, there it went. I can see that it summed it all up. Now there's no way in heck that I would trust this computer to give me the right answer. So I want to verify it first. Itasca April should give us 66,500 trees. So if I come back here to my trees, Itasca, I'm going to select these 3 items and then click on the last Itasca and with me again. Now I can see that, yep, the average is 16,625 trees in Cut 4 and the sum is 66,500 trees. So if you select something in Excel, it will do some quick math on the lower left hand or right hand side. Awesome. So 66,500 trees, that is exactly what I was expecting right here. So we've got it to work. Awesome. Now, when you start playing around with data, this is when the boss asks questions such as, hey, this is really cool. What is this showing us? Is there a trend that we can exploit? And in this case, I would go, no, I don't see anything. So how about we take that data and instead of slicing it this way, I slice it in a different way. So same data, different way. I'm going to go back here to rows, and instead of doing it by county, I'll get rid of the county by just clicking on it. And then I want to put it in by type of tree. Click on that. Same data, sliced in a different way, and this is showing us something that's a little bit more useful, I would say. In this case, what I see is that most trees are purchased in April and May. And in fact, Scotch pine is only purchased in April. So this might be a good point to have some kind of marketing blitz that says, hey, did you know that you could purchase Scotch pine or any tree in that matter all the way until September and it would live through the winter? You don't have to just get it from April to May and hopefully drive some additional sales in September. All right, so you can, as you start playing around with data, you might be asked to say, what does that data mean? Now, I'm looking at this data and I can see that blue spruce April is 37,500 trees. Now that means that probably multiple counties made up that number. I want to see those counties. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on county and I'm going to drag that down to my filters here. Click on county, drag down to filter, and when I let go, it says, yep, you're looking at all counties. So I wonder what counties these were for the 37,500 trees. I can click on this, and if I click on St. Louis and click OK, I can see that April blue spruce, that was 15,000. I could also click on, say, Itasca and see that that was April blue spruce, 22,500 trees, which is the 37,000 trees. So I can come up here and filter out stuff using my filters here. Now, this would be useful if, say, you were dealing with healthcare and insurance. So perhaps we want to deal with certain insurance companies that do something specific and other ones that do not. So it might just be a certain set, Blue Cross and UCare versus other ones. And I might want to look at both of those together. I could do that by selecting multiple items. So I could select both Itasca and St. Louis at the same time. UCare and Blue Cross Blue Shield. Click on that. I'm looking at multiple items, and now I can see the data for just those counties. Well, in this case, counties, but I was talking about insurance companies. So there we are. All right, a question that I would get at this point is, hey Don, sometimes I click and then all of a sudden my pivot table stuff disappears. Why is that? Well, this is Excel trying to help you out in saying, I'm not going to show you stuff unless it's available at that time, unless you have it set up. Right now, I have my cursor just on a cell. It's not part of the pivot table, so it's not going to show me a pivot table stuff. I have to click within that pivot table information to actually see my pivot table panel that flies out from the right-hand side. So if it disappears, just make sure that you click within your data, within your pivot table, and you should see the pivot table fields here. All right, coffee break. All right, now I'm going to bring myself back down to here. That was the trees. We were playing around with that. And now we're going to go on to conditional formatting. All right. Zoom down here a little bit. All right. If you've ever taken your car on a business trip, and it's your personal car, your boss might not have told you, but you're entitled to a certain amount of money. Nowadays, that's around 55 cents per mile. So if you were to take your car and say take a little detour off about a mile and then back again, that's $1.10, and you can get yourself a big gulp as you're driving down the road to your next appointment. Now, that would be great if it's your car, but if you're HR, you want to make sure the people who are doing this aren't abusing that privilege. So what we want to do is we want to see who's high and who's low on our mileage. So I can see that I have a whole bunch of mileage right here. 155, 156, 164, etc. I can't tell what's high and what's low. So instead, I'm going to select on the 155 and drag it all the way down here to right before 1441. Then on my Home tab, in conditional formatting, I could see different things that I'm looking for. Things such as greater than, less than, or between. I could do top and bottom rows, top 10 items, top 10%. I could do data bars, bigger bars for larger pieces of information. I could also do color scales, big meaning good meaning green, or big meaning bad meaning red. Those are a couple of them that are in there. Or icon sets, Lean and Six Sigma. We would use just good, bad, or caution, which is a lot of these items in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to data bars and click on just the first blue bars. And now, very easily, I can see that 186 is the largest mileage that I have. Because I've selected all of the cells going from 155 down, as I add more items, it'll automatically recalculate. So if I have a 200 in here, boom, 200 becomes the largest one, and now 186 has been pushed a little bit away. And if I go here to 250, 250 is the largest, 200 becomes smaller, and 186 becomes even smaller still. All right, now what I'd like to do is I'd like to find out who has the largest miles in here, because maybe I want to give them a talking to, maybe they qualify for having a company car. So in this case, I'm going to select from 155 all the way down to before the total miles, come up here to conditional formatting, and then bottom and top rules. Now it says top 10 items, top 10%, bottom 10 items, bottom 10%, but all of them have the ellipsis after it, which means that they're going to ask me a question. So if I click on, say, the top 10 items, it says, do you want to have the top 10 items? I could spinner it down to 9, 8, or 7, or I could just type in 1. I want the top item to be a light red fill with a dark red text. When I click on it, I can see that it turns red right here, but it still has a different look to it. I still have the blue in the background, and that's not what I want. So, select all of our information, conditional formatting, and when I come back here to manage rules, I can see that, yep, it's going to do the top one, but it doesn't stop if true. What I wanted to do is I wanted to say, once you find the top one, don't do anything below it, so I would get a blue data bar in the back. So I'm going to stop if true, and now when I click OK, I can see that 250 becomes the largest one, and I don't have a blue border behind it. If the 186 was actually 286, 286 is now red, everything else turns blue, and I can see who's the largest one, who has the most miles. All right, so HR comes up to us and says, hey, you can't do that. This person happens to be the best salesperson. Just let it go with the mileage. Don't put this person, don't single this person out. So I'm going to select from 155 back down here to right before total miles again. Come here to conditional formatting and then manage rules again. In this time I see that, yep, there's the top 1% and stop if true, but I'm going to click on it and then I'm going to say delete rule, which will allow me to delete that and now it'll just be data bars. A question that I get in some of my classes, it might seem obvious to some of you, but then some of you might never have thought about it, is I have actually 3 buttons here. I have one that says OK, one that says cancel, and one that says apply. And people will say, what's the difference between OK and apply? OK will actually do it and close this panel, whereas apply will apply it and then still keep this open, so I will be able to see that, yep, this did what I expected it to do, which will remove the red for the 286, but it didn't close it, so I would be able to make changes here also. So I could hit apply, or in this case, I'm done, ready to go. If I click OK, I'm ready to go. All right, coffee break. All right. Tables. Now, back in 2007, I believe it was about then, that's when Excel brought in tables, which I thought was really weird because Excel is a big table. Why do we want additional table stuff there? What tables means is that it's going to try to format this for you, which is good. It'll format it in ways that you want, plus you're going to get additional tools to help you out in manipulating the data. So right here, I have a bunch of people, salespeople, and their sales by month. I want to put this into, quote, a table. So I'm going to click anywhere within here, and then I believe it's under Insert. I'm going to go here to Table. And when I click on it, just like in pivot tables, it tries to find the edges of all of my data, and it says, is this the data for it? Yes. And again, I have a checkbox that says my table has headers. So January, February, etc. will be headers. Click OK, and there we are. What this did was it says, oh, I'm going to be able to give you a table which will now say this is a header, so it has a certain color to it. This is a certain piece, and that these are numbers, and I'll be able to put colors alternating, blue, light, white, blue, white, etc. So, and when I click in it, it gives me additional things that I can do with it. So maybe I don't want blue and white, I want it to be like maroon and gold or maroon and white. So in this case, I could come down here to the dark, find something down here, or I guess it's all orange anyways, or green. Let's do green. Nope, let's not do green. So I'm going to go back and find, we'll just go back here to the grays. All right, beautiful. Column 1, that doesn't really help. I don't want to call column 1, I'll just say sales, right there. Now, January, February, November. That's pretty weird. Okay, November should be all the way over here at the right-hand side of October. Now, we could cut and paste it over here, but now because it's a table, I can move it all around. So I'm going to click in November, and I'm going to go to the top portion here of November. And when I click, this one's always tough. I'm looking for that. Nope. I'm looking for, let's try this. There we go. What I did was I selected this header, and if I come over to the edge, notice I get a black crossed arrow, and that means that I can move stuff. So if I click and hold, now as I drag, I get an I-beam as I move left and right. So I'm going to move all the way to the right of October, and when I let go, it's now reordered in the right orders. January, February, March, April, May, June. Beautiful. But I only get up to November. I want to put in December. Well, select here, type in December 00, and there we are, December. And I can put in additional information. And I'll just say everybody did 30,000. Click on the first one, lower right-hand side, click, hold, and drag. Everybody did 30,000. All right, I got this table. It looks pretty good, but I wanted to start doing information. I want it to do work for me. So when I click within my table, I'll be able to come up here to Table Design, and it says, hey, would you like a total row? This is pretty good because now it should do totals for me. Click on this, and it does the first one for me for December. If I want to copy that all the way down, I know how to do that by clicking on it, lower right-hand side, the autofill handle, click, hold, and drag to January. And there you go, I've got all the totals. What happens if I want my first column to look different than everything else, because this is Smith, Jones, Peterson, and Hansen? Well, click on the first column, and it doesn't look any different in this case because of the table styles. I could also make the last column look different. So I can put in here, you guys still see? Yep, totals, and there you go. And if I then say, hey, I want to do an auto sum, it looks to the left-hand side. It says, do you want to sum up all that? When I hit enter, because it is the same all the way down, it did the totals for me. Let's move that over just a little bit. There we go. Grand total here, auto sum, boom, there we are. All right, click in here, table design. Let's go with a slightly darker theme. So there we go, oranges. And first column, again, it just bolded it. Last column, bolded it. But some of those would also give you cool different colors. And unfortunately, this one's a little darker greens, etc. So nothing there that I can show you very good on this screen. All right, coming up to our last couple of minutes, coffee break. All right, duplicates. Again, right now I made this into a table, but sometimes when we get data, because of the way that the queries are set up, it will give us duplicate data on some of the things that we're looking for. Alice, Beth, Carla, etc. We have a bunch of people, and I can see that Alice is in here twice with 10s, and Beth might be in here twice too with 15, etc. I want to get rid of all of my duplicates. Well, if I click anywhere within my data, I can come up here to my table design and remove duplicates. This also works if it were just data. So if I come here to data, there's also another one that says remove duplicates. But in this case, again, I'll come back here to my table design, remove duplicates, and because I've named the tops, it is now, the headers, it now asks me what things constitute a duplicate record. Because we could have different items in here, such as Alice's dates that she got this or whatever. And in that case, we might want to ignore it. But we want to say that in this case, name and amount, if they're the same, then count them as a duplicate. So duplicate for name, duplicate for amount. When I click OK, it's smart enough to say that 2 of them were removed and 5 unique values remain. So here are the unique values for this last piece. All right, with the approximately 5 minutes that I have left, one of the suggestions that I got in one of my first classes was, hey Don, you've shown us all of these really cool things, all of these easy academic kind of things. Show us a real life kind of suggestion. I was like, hey, perfect, no sweat. So in this case, I'm going to do one called orders. When I'm not teaching, I'm actually a web developer kind of thing. I program for the web. And what I did was I created a sign up for a basketball league somewhere in the United States. And so at the end, when I got all this stuff, they would start asking me questions about this data. So for example, we have all the people here, the items, what they bought, and then their item cost. Well, the first thing that we might want to do is we might want to say, well, what was the total cost, right? So I'll get rid of team right here, and I'll say total cost. This is the first one, not quite on this class, but we can do this pretty easily by saying is equal to the quantity times shift 8 item cost. Boom. 156, click, double click, and there we have all of the information there. It did all of the quantities. Let's see if we have a multiple quantity in here. And did I put in all ones? What a knucklehead. Yep, I did. So total cost would have worked if I didn't blow away the quantities and just make those all one. Now, a couple other things that we could do. They had asked, they said, hey, this is great, but what I'd like to do is I'd like to know what all the teams were. So I could go to these teams and say, here are your items. Well, we know how to do that now. I'm going to click in the team column, sort and filter, and I could sort A to Z, and faster than we could say boom, I could see here are all the people, D2 Baron, etc., and here are all of the items that they should have. So this part right here are all those items. And again, as the coach would go out, or as the head of the basketball teams would go, the basketball league, they'll say, how much money do I need to pick from each one of these teams? Well, we know how to do that now. That is just a subtotal. Come here to data, subtotal, and I don't want to change in each number, which is going to be part of our keeping track of all of our orders. Instead, I want to come down here to where it says team. At the change in each team, use the sum function, and I want to do it on total cost. Click OK. Bring it back over here, and I can see D2 Baron's total is going to be $1,265. Likewise, most people don't want to see all the details, so I'm going to click on 2, and now I can see how much each one of our teams should be asked. So I should be expecting $1,719 from D2 Barrett, etc. All right, so that was, sorting our data, was using subtotals. I also showed you how to get the totals real quick. So the things that I'm showing you right here are things that I actually use on a day-to-day basis. All right, so this is the end of class 2. If you have additional questions, let me know during my quiz time, or my office hours, so to speak, on Zoom. Otherwise, have a good day.